Good morning, grade 7s. Welcome to your daily lesson of mathematics brought to you by WorksheetCloud. I hope you guys are really well today and looking forward to the lesson. A reminder of the email address on your screen, grade7@worksheetcloud.com. Please feel free to use it to send me any feedback, questions, queries, or suggestions on work that you would like us to cover. Today, we carry on with our topic of time. And on either side of that, we have our warm-ups, our mental arithmetic revision questions, and then your brain bender to finish off at the end. So let's get into our warm-up activity. Today's warm-up activity is a little bit more tricky than usual. There are fractions involved. It has a little bit of a Halloween theme. So please press pause, work it out, give it your best shot, and then press play to see how you guys get on. Okay, so I decided to start on the second line where 1 is equal to a cauldron plus a cauldron. So I know that 1 is equal to a half plus a half. I then went to the third line and I saw that a half is equal to a quarter plus a quarter. So remember that when we add fractions, we add the numerators and the denominators stay the same. So a quarter plus a quarter is 2 over 4, and 2 over 4 is equal to a half. So we say they are equivalent. From there I went to the fourth line and I realized that the pumpkin must be 1 because 1 minus a half is equal to a half. And then knowing that the pumpkin was 1, I went up to the top line and I recognized that each hand was equal to a third. So a third plus a third plus a third is going to give me 1 whole. So just to finish off with, at the bottom, the hand is equal to a third, the cauldron is equal to a half, the cat is equal to a quarter, and I'll just squeeze it in there, and the pumpkin was equal to 1. Hope you guys enjoyed that different warm-up activity today and that your mind is still remembering the fraction work that we did a few weeks back. If not, go back to the online lessons, the activities and memos that are available on WorksheetCloud.com and brush up on those addition of fraction skills. Mental arithmetic practice covering past taught principles. Have a go at the 9 questions on your screen and then press play to see how you guys get on. A couple of reminders: write all your calculations down, work methodically, logically, as neatly as possible, and please check your work after you've done your calculation to make sure that there are no careless errors in your working out. Press play afterwards and let's see how you guys get on. Remember, there's absolutely no reason to rush through your work. Good luck. Okay, question number 1, 9.88 plus 12.76. And the key here is to have the correct numbers in the correct columns. So we are looking at something like that. Okay, we are adding them. So it's straightforward addition. 8 and 6 is 14, carry the 10. 8 and 7 is 15, plus the 1, 16. We know by now that the decimals line up. We need to carry the 1. So 9 and 2 is 11, plus the 1 is 12. And we need to carry the 1 again, and we get 22,64. Question number 2 is a subtraction question. 43,276. And we are subtracting 3,784. Okay, really important that you have the correct numbers in the correct columns. And to subtract, we subtract normally, and when we need to borrow, we simply do that. So that becomes 17 minus 8, which is 9. The 10th column becomes 11 minus 7, which is 4. Decimal in the same place. The unit column becomes 12 minus 3, which is 9. And then the tens column, 3 minus 0, which is 3. Now to check this, 2 plus 4 is 6, and remember we add because we need to do the opposite of our original function, which is subtract. 9 plus 8 is 17, so far so good. 4 plus 7 is 11, good. 9 and 3 is 12, and 3 plus your imaginary 0 is going to give you 3, so we must know that we are correct. Okay, question 3 is the multiplication of decimals, and we're multiplying a decimal by a whole number, so we can do that in a straightforward manner. We don't really have to alter the question in any way to make it easier for ourselves. So we've got 1,48 multiplied by 7, and we are quite happy to do this in this format. 7 times 8 is 56, carry the 5. 7 times 4 is 28, plus the 5 is 33, carry the 3. 7 times 1 is 7, plus the 3 is 10. Now the only way to check a question like this is to do the opposite, and that would be division. So it would be handy and it would be good practice for us to actually do the division of a decimal question, and it's short division. 7 doesn't go into 1, it goes into 10 once with a remainder of 3. You know that the decimals line up, and 7 goes into 33 4 times, and it's left with 5 because 7 times 4 is 28, and then 7 goes into 56 8 times, and you can see that that answer and your original number in the multiplication question are the same, so we know that we are correct. Question 4 is on the screen for you. It's a long division question. We spent a while going through long division questions, so let's see how we'll work out this one. So I'm going to work this out via multiplication, and the first thing I'm going to do is 26 times 100, and that's going to give me 2,600. Now that's quite a way away from 9,152. So to multiply it by 200 we can do, no problem, and that's going to give me 5,200. If I multiply it by 300, I simply need to add another 2,600 onto 5,200, and that, as you can see, is going to give me 7,800. Okay? Then if I multiply it by 50, and that's 26 multiplied by 50, I'm going to get 1,300. So now I can see my bottom two questions, or my bottom two calculations, is going to give me an answer of 9,100. So I'm quite close. I'm 52 away. And then I can recognize that 26 goes into 52 twice. So 26 multiplied by 2 equals 52. I then simply need to add up 300, 50, and 2, and that's going to be my answer. Okay, so 9,152 divided by 26 is 352. But let's check it. So if I can just create some space, you can always rewind and have a look at the calculations that I've done if you want to go over it. But let's have a look if I'm correct. So to check, I need to have 352 multiplied by 26. Now I'm happy for you guys to do it in whatever method you would like. So let's have a look at this method. And I'm sure it's a method a lot of you might use. So I'll go 6 times 2 is 12, carry the 1. 6 times 5 is 30, plus the 1 is 31, carry the 3. Times 3 is 18, plus the 3 is 21. Okay, I need my 0 as my placeholder because I'm now multiplying by the 2 of the 26, which is actually 20, so a multiple of 10, and we know multiples of 10 always end in 0. 2 times 2 then is 4, 2 times 5 is 10, so I need to carry 1, and 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7, and I need to add there, and let's put that in a different color. 2 plus 0 is 2, 1 plus 4 is 5, 1 plus 0 is 1, and 2 plus 7 is 9. And you can see there that those numbers are the same. So therefore, our original long division calculation must be correct. Okay, let's move on to question number 5. And question number 5 is the addition of fractions. Okay, so 5/6 plus 2/5, and we know when we add fractions, the denominators need to be the same. So I'm looking for the lowest common denominator of 6 and 5, and yes, I'm sure I heard you shout it out, it's 30. So 6 goes into 35 times, so 5 times 5 is 25. 5 goes into 36 times, so 6 times 2 is 12. And if I add them together, I get 37 over 30. And if you needed to put that into a mixed number, you're going to have 1 and 7 over 30. Okay? Then question 6 is a multiplication of a decimal by 10. And we know by now, after doing the decimal series, that any number multiplied by 10 gets one place bigger. So 567,91 multiplied by 10 is going to give you 5,679,1. Okay? Then we have the division of a fraction, and I'm hoping you guys can remember that when we divide fractions by a whole number, we can convert the whole number to a fraction by simply putting it over 1. So now we're dealing with two fractions, so it just makes it a little easier for us to understand. The division sign changes to multiply, and the fraction after the division sign becomes inverted. So now I've got 3 over 5 times 1 over 3. When we multiply fractions, we can cancel out diagonally. And my answer is simply 1 times 1 in the numerator, which is 1, and 5 times 1 in the denominator, which is 5. If you did not cancel out diagonally, that's not a problem. All you would have needed to do at the end is simplify 3 over 15, which is equivalent to 1/5. Okay, question 8 is the multiplication of a mixed number by a fraction, and that's 1 3/4 times 1/5. Okay, so we convert it to an improper fraction. 7 times 4 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So we put it over the original denominator 4, so 7 over 4 times 1/5. Now we cannot cancel out diagonally, so we multiply 7 and 1 in the numerator, 4 and 5 in the denominator, and your answer is 7/20, and that cannot be simplified any further. Your last question is 25% of 240, and there are multiple ways of you working this out. I'm just going to show you my preferred method, and my preferred method is to find out 10%, because all I need to do is divide by 10. So if I know 10%, I know 20%, I can just simply double it. And if I know 10%, I can work out 5%, and I just need to halve it. So now I just need to add the 20 and the 5%, and 48 plus 12 is going to give me 60. Remember, 25% is also a quarter, so you could have just divided 240 by 4, which is 24 divided by 4 is 6, and then you need to add on the 0 for the multiple of 10, and that would have given you 60 as well. Okay, I hope you guys remembered those past principles. It's always good to practice these things. Let me know if you need any more clarification or explanation, and I'll be happy to do so in one of the next few lessons. All right, let's get back to the main theme of today, which is a continuation of last lesson's work, which is timetables and problem solving using time. The timetable, and this is the Spot Express Courier's flight schedule. So you can see there are 4 destinations: South Star, Park City, Mount Shabul, and Kraken. And this one works horizontally. I'd like you guys to work through the 5 questions that are on your screen by yourself, and then I'm going to go through these questions with you on the Google Jamboard to see how you guys did. Let's hope that you guys can remember some of the timetable work we did in the previous lesson, and let's see how you guys get on. Number 1, how long does each flight stop for at Park City Airport? So we can have a look at Park City Airport. Here it is over here. Okay, and you can see that the first plane arrives at 7:40 and leaves again at 9 a.m. So that's 1 hour and 20 minutes. Does it work like that for other flights? So let's have a look. This one arrives at 10:40 and leaves at 12. So that again is 1 hour and 20 minutes. 1:30 p.m. and 10 to 3 is also 1 hour and 20 minutes. And 4:20 p.m. to 5:40 p.m. is 1 hour and 20 minutes. So once we've checked all of them, we know it's 1 hour and 20 minutes. Okay, so there's your answer for number 1. Question number 2 is, how long do flights between Mount Shabul and Kraken airports take? So we can have a look. From 12:15 to 2:45 is going to be 2.5 hours. From 4:55 to 7:25, it's going to be 2.5 hours. From 6:05 to 8:35 is 2.5 hours, and it's 2.5 hours from 25 to 11 to 1:05. So we know then your answer for number 2 is going to be 2 hours 30 minutes. Okay. Question 3, calculate the total time a plane spends in the air traveling between South Star and Kraken Airport. So it's how much time in the air. Okay, this doesn't include stopping. All right, so we need to calculate how long in between each stop. So from South Star to Park City is going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes. All right. From Park City to Mount Shabul is 2 hours and 15 minutes. And from Mount Shabul to Kraken, we've already worked out is 2.5 hours. We worked that out in question number 2. So if we add all of those up, we've got 6 hours. If we add up all the minutes, we've got 90 minutes, which is 1 hour and a half. So we need to add 6 hours and 1.5 hours, and we get 7.5 hours. Okay? On a day where all the planes are running on time, between which 2 points or which 2 airports will the 11:15 flight from South Star, and I've highlighted that in yellow on the timetable, and the 5 to 5 a.m. flight from Kraken, which is highlighted in blue, what time or between which 2 airports will they pass each other? Now you can see that when the 5 to 5 flight from Kraken leaves Park City, it leaves at 12 p.m. And you can see that the 11:15 flight from South Star only arrives at Park City at 1:30 p.m. So therefore, those 2 flights will pass each other between South Star, and I'm just going to use SS for South Star, and Park City, I'm going to use PC. Okay? So that question is just there to see if you guys can read timetables and understand arrival times, departure times, and where aeroplanes might pass each other according to the timetable. Question 5 and this one is a little bit of a higher order thinking question, so you would do well to get this. The 5 to 5 a.m. flight experiences poor weather conditions near Mount Shabu. Okay, so that's the 5 to 5 flight that experiences poor weather conditions near Mount Shabu. This extends the flight time between Kraken Airport and Park City by 1 hour and 15 minutes. Okay. The weather also causes a 45-minute delay during the stop at Mount Shabu. So your first question is, what time will this plane arrive at Park City? Now, at Park City, it's due to arrive at 10:40 a.m. So what we need to do, we need to add on that hour and 15 minutes. And we also need to add on 45 minutes because that's an additional delay. And if we do that, we can see that 10:40 plus 1 hour will be 11:40. And we can see that the 15 minutes and the 45 minutes give us an additional hour. So that means it will only arrive at Park City Airport at 12:40 p.m. Okay? Part of the question, what time will this flight arrive in South Star if the stopover is shortened by 40 minutes to make up time? So we can see that the stopover is normally 1 hour and 20 minutes. So 40 minutes shorter than 1 hour and 20 minutes is 40 minutes. So if it arrives at 12:40, stops over for 40 minutes only, that means it departs at 20 minutes past 1. And we know that the flight takes 2 hours and 45 minutes. So 2 hours and 45 minutes on top of 20 past 1 is going to give us 5 past 4. Okay? Guys, I hope you managed to work out those questions. Some of them can be quite confusing. The most tricky part is reading the timetable and figuring out when the arrival time is, when the departure time is, and how long the stopover is. But rewind it, have another look at it if you're confused, and send me any questions regarding times tables if you would like me to clarify anything going forward. Last question for today, complex cove tidal chart. So this is a high tide and low tide timetable, and they can be quite complicated and quite tricky to read. So you'll see the date in the first column and the day. Then you have high tide in the morning and high tide in the afternoon and evening with the height of the high tide. And then after that you have low tide in the morning and low tide in the evening and the height of the low tide. So you've got to make sure you're reading the correct column. So read the questions carefully, answer them, and press play to see how you guys get on. Let's talk through this. As I said before, it can be confusing. So question number 1, on Sunday the 4th, what time did the high tide occur after the low tide at 7:35? So let's first locate that low tide at 7:35, and there it is there. Okay. Now, the next high tide after 25 to 8 in the morning on that particular day has to be 6 minutes past 1. Okay? So, I think that one is okay to start with. Question number 2. When did the next low tide occur following the high tide at 20 to 6 on Saturday the 10th? So again, locate the 20 to 6 on Saturday the 10th. Now, some of you might have said the next low tide was at 14 minutes past midnight. The thing you need to understand is 14 minutes past midnight on Saturday the 10th came before 20 to 6 on Saturday the 10th. So the next low tide that comes after 20 20 minutes to 6 on Saturday the 10th is actually 22 minutes past 1 in the morning on the following day. And there you can see that time over there. So completely understandable if you had said 14 minutes past midnight, but just realize that 14 minutes past midnight came before 20 to 6 in the evening on that day. So therefore you need to look at the low tide on the next day. So that's 0, 1, 22. And don't be worried if that caught you out. It caught me out a couple of times as well. And then when I checked my work, I realized that I had made a mistake. So let's hope we can all learn from the mistakes that we make. Let me just neaten that up. Okay. Question 3. How high was the high tide following the low tide height of 0.12 meters on Thursday the 8th? So let's look at Thursday the 8th. Here is the low tide height of 0.12 meters. Okay, and they want to know how high was the high tide following that low tide. So you can see that low tide is at 12 minutes past 10. Okay, the next high tide is going to be the next day. Okay, and the next day's high tide is at 4:25 in the morning. There it is there, and you can see that height is 2.44 meters. All right, question 4. How much time passed between the two high tides on Monday the 12th? So if you have a look, the first high tide, and I'm going to do it up here, is 07:38, and the second high tide is 19:56 in the evening. So how much time is it between the two? So you should be able to recognize that it's 12 hours from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. And we know, because we've already covered 24-hour time in a previous lesson, that 7 o'clock in the evening is 19. So that's going to give me 12 hours. And if you calculate the minutes, that will give you 18 minutes. Okay, so that's how much time passed between the two high tides on Monday the 12th. Question number 5. Calculate the time taken for the tide to change from low to high on Tuesday the 13th on both occasions. Okay, so let's have a look at Tuesday the 13th. Your first low tide on Tuesday the 13th is 3:25 in the morning. Your first high tide after 3:25 in the morning is 8:41. So how much time was it from 03:25 to 08:41? Okay, and you should be able to recognize that there's 5 hours from 3 in the morning to 8 in the morning, and then an additional 16 minutes. Okay, so that's going to be 5 hours and 16 minutes. Then they wanted us to look at the second change. So the second change was 14:47. So there's the second low tide on that particular day, 14:47. Okay, and there is the second high tide, which is 1 minute past 9. What is the time difference between the two? So you should be able to recognize that from 14:47 to 9 o'clock is going to be 6 hours and 13 minutes. And then you need to add that extra minute, so it's 6 hours and 14 minutes. Okay. I need to clear a bit of space to calculate the next part. And the last part is, what is the average time taken for the tides to change from low to high on Tuesday the 13th? So now I've got both times. I've got 5 hours and 16 minutes for the first time difference between low and high tide. I've got 6 hours and 14 minutes for the second difference between low and high tide. So to get the average of the two, I need to add them together. So 5 hours 16 plus 6 hours 14 gives me 11 hours 30. and to get the average I need to divide by 2 because there are 2 changes or 2 entries. And what's half of 11 hours and 30 minutes? And that's quite correct. It's going to give you 5 hours and 45 minutes. Okay, so your answer for question number 6 is 5 hours and 45 minutes. Okay, so guys, it can be confusing, tidal charts. Just make sure you know which time comes first on which day. And obviously you need to realize that a low tide can be late on one evening and the high tide, the following high tide could be on the next day, or the other way around. So just make sure you understand which time you're looking at on which day, and that should make it a little bit easier for yourself. But I encourage you to rewind and go through it again if you didn't understand, and as always, send me an email on grade7@worksheetcloud.com should you have any further queries. Leaves us with our brain bender finisher for today, which is the game of 24. Use each number on each card and a combination of the operational signs to get an answer of 24, and see how many different ways you can get to the answer of 24, and challenge each other at home. Continue to use it to practice your mental arithmetic and your various operations. Grade 7s, thanks very much for joining me today. Please feel free to send me an email. I've mentioned this many times, but I'm really keen to help you guys understand your maths work going forward. Keep safe, and I hope to see you guys next time. All the best.